That's a new feature I've noticed that Zoom has added, so I should have warned everybody. I'm just going to give everybody one more minute to come in, but as we wait for a few more folks, just want to say thank you so much for joining us today for our Lunch and Learn. We're very excited to hear from Maria Deptula. Please stay on mute. We'll have plenty of time at the end for questions, but if you want, you can certainly put your questions into the chat box located at the bottom of your screen if you don't want to forget. Also, if you want, you can raise your hand. There's the raise your hand feature, and then this way we won't forget to call on you. I think we're ready. If we want to turn it over to Nina. Nina, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about Bergen Volunteers?
I would love to. Thank you, Melissa. And thanks to Melissa for setting this up and putting it all together. I am Nina Backrack. I'm the CEO here at Bergen Volunteers, and welcome everyone to installment number 2 of our 4-part Lunch and Learn series. The other 2 are coming up. One is July 14th. That's going to be a virtual tour of the Statue of Liberty on Ellis Island. And then the other one will be in September. That's going to be kind of a workshop about home art therapy with children. It's for parents to kind of teach therapy through play. I would like to thank today's sponsor, James D. Brown, CPA, for sponsoring today's Lunch and Learn. And you can still sponsor the next 2 if you are interested. Give us a shout. I'll just talk a little bit about Bergen Volunteers. We're a 55-year-old nonprofit. We're based in Hackensack, but we serve the whole county. We are not a county entity. We are a nonprofit, a standalone nonprofit. Essentially, what we do at Bergen Volunteers is we strengthen communities through volunteerism, and everything we do sort of surrounds being engaged and active in the community. So we have our own community programs that we run. We match volunteers with external community programs, with agency organizations, other nonprofits. We have some civic leadership and community engagement programs that we run. We help businesses with their corporate social responsibility. We help them, they're interested in being involved in the community, but they don't know how, so we match them. We essentially fill the gaps in the social welfare network. If we don't have a service, we'll connect you. We're sort of the hub of the community. We collaborate a lot with nonprofits and businesses in our area. We serve youth, veterans, seniors, people with disabilities, really anyone who needs extra support. We utilize about 500 volunteers every year, and we serve about 7,000 people just within our own programs annually. And just to give an example, Melissa and I were just talking about this, our Get Connected database in which we help match volunteers. It gets about 100,000 hits a year on our database for people looking for volunteer opportunities. So we're really the community center without walls, where we match resources with needs and needs with resources. All of our programs, with the exception of 1 or 2, are free, but we do have scholarship for the programs that are not free so that we don't turn anyone away. You can find out all about this at bergenvolunteers.org. And again, thank you to James Brown, our CPA, James Brown CPA, not our CPA, for sponsoring our Lunch and Learn. So I'm going to introduce our guide to MisInformation today. Our workshop leader is Maria Deptula, who was in our Bergen Leads class of 2015. So I'm going to read her bio so that I don't mess it up. Maria Deptula is an Associate Director for Library Digital Services at Berkeley College. She has been an active member of the New Jersey Academic Libraries Organization, serving in multiple roles. Before becoming an academic librarian, Maria was a public librarian and archivist, historical researcher. Maria will help us today to uncover how we can categorize information based on its provenance, recognize our selective preferences, and learn new sources we can refer to when in doubt. So we're so pleased that Maria is here today to share her expertise with us. And now, without further ado, welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Nina, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us today. I also want to thank you, Bergen Volunteers, for allowing me to share with you a little bit about the information that I often share with students on our biases, on how to look for the real information. And the goals for today's Oh, we are going to have a problem. Okay. The goals for today's presentation, it would be to establish level of awareness of misinformation, provide a couple of fact-checking places where we can go and see what's really true and what's not, and also encourage critical thinking by seeking or accessing information. So what do we know? We are living in a post-truth era, and we struggle with the fabrication of truth. We ignore information on a daily basis, and I like that what I put in quotes, seeds of suspicion of widely accepted assumptions. That's the president of the University of Washington who said it to the students. And we also know that fake news are not new. Fabricated stories have been present for centuries, and misinformation is not exactly the same as disinformation. In 2017, the Oxford Dictionary added a new word. It's called post-truth, and it's an adjective. And it talks about relating or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion that appeals to emotion and personal belief. And those definitions that I have here on the screen, such as misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, bias information, and malice information, they are all from the Oxford English Dictionary. And you can see that there is a difference between misinformation, which is unintentional, which in case of disinformation, it is done on purpose, purposely false information that is intended to mislead. We are familiar with propaganda, which is done for political reasons or to gain acceptance for some programs. And bias information, it's a one-sided tendency, usually to influence or affect opinions, when malice is a pure lie. Misinformation and fake news are not new. And ever since the invention of the printing press, when the information was available to the wider groups, there were problems with misinformation. And Jonathan Swift actually complained about fake news in his Art of Political Lying. Edgar Allan Poe is known for at least several newspaper stories that were fake news. One of them was about flying the balloons over the Atlantic Ocean in 72 hours. And we all are familiar with Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. The founding fathers are guilty too. In 1769, John Adams actually complained that he was working on curious employment, cooking up paragraphs, articles, occurrences, etc., to work the political engine. Some other founding fathers who employed fake news were Ben Franklin, William Livingston, and the list is long. What do we have now? We have a mass communication. This is a big problem. We just getting information from all over the internet, the social media, the mass media. And for that reason, we really need to be literate in media. And the word literacy really means ability to read and write, but it also has additional meanings. Competence or knowledge in a specific area, and also critical thinking skills to judge the reliability and credibility of information. I would like to take a poll. So, Melissa, can you add the poll right now? Okay, so our poll would be, where do you get your news? And you can select several if you want to. So, Melissa, when you have the results, can you share the results with us?
Yep, so I can end it at any time. So if everybody is done, we'll end the poll.
Okay. All right. So in this group, we get information from news aggregators, from e-magazine, even from print magazine. The largest group is e-magazine and print magazine. Oh, wow. And only 40% uses social media or local TV. Keep this in mind when we go further. When I did this test with students, Most of them were using social media, and we probably all realize how many people use social media for their news information. This is the poll done by the Pew Research Institute in 2019, and 1 in 5 US adults get their political information through social media. That's a lot. More Americans get news from the social media than in print newspapers. So this was a specific, in our group, we actually still rely on the old press, but in general, more people are looking for social media. And this changed around 2017 when people are looking for social media to get their information. However, those who use social media claim that the information there is inaccurate, it's one-sided. Over 50% of those who actually reach for social media as their source of information say that the information is a very big problem. The one-sided, the inaccurate, etc. So a little bit more about social media. We use them, but again, this is Pew Research Institute done in 2020. Most Americans say that their own news source have presented facts that favor one side of an issue or published information that hasn't been fully verified. So people do realize this. 67% of those who responded to the poll believed and knew that the information was not factual, though they still use it. But what is the effect of this? Majority of Americans say social media negatively affect the way things are going in the country today. So they know there is a problem, but they're still using it. So how do we distinguish between facts and fiction? This is the 2018 report from the Pew Research Institute, which suggested that people are having difficulty telling the difference between fact and opinion. Similar research was done with the Stanford students, where there was also almost similar numbers. 50% were not able to differentiate between what is the fact and what is the opinion. And on the graph here on the right, you can see that those who were politically aware or digital savvy or had some kind of a news interest and trust, they were more likely to differentiate what is the fact and what is the opinion. So the more you are engaged in this, the bigger the chance that you are going to catch what's true and what's just the opinion. So what we are facing right now, we are living in our own bubbles, and we have our own bias and information selection, and then we have this information overload, and our selective preferences make us vulnerable to manipulation by various channels. And if you heard about clickbait or echo chambers or bots, they're all over us and they attack us. I would like to define what's the filter or information bubble. It's really an algorithm that search engines actually used based on what we accessed before. This is how the information is being fed to us. So by our past click behavior and search history allows the algorithm to present us with the information that we are likely to accept. And because of this, because of the information bubble that we are living in, we are facing the propaganda, entertainment, self-promotion, posing as information, and we have no real skills often to double check the information source. And we are reluctant, even the younger people in particular, they are very reluctant to double check, or they get very discouraged. They don't even want to listen or hear or get engaged in any kind of news information. And then what it causes, it's the lack of personal opinion and then lack of critical thinking. So the next problem that we have is how do we disseminate this information? And a new term was defined recently, and it's called information ethics. And it means how individuals and groups disseminate and censor various kinds of information in a way to benefit or harm others. And this is the USA Today graph that was published this is 2016, so it might be a little bit outdated, but I don't think it changed for better. Those who share the information, those who shared the news online and later found out that it was made up, it was 16%. Those who shared political information knowing that it was made up, it was 14%. And those who did it either or were 23%. So almost a quarter of those who shared the information on Facebook, shared the or other social media, share the information that it's not true. So how does it happen? And why do we do this? Why do we create this going viral thing? Well, we do this because the information that that affects emotions, it's better. It's just people want to hear it. And this is the image on the right side. It shows how the fake news is being generated. There are different media channels that pick the information and distribute it. I just wanted to say that don't forget that the word viral comes from virus. So something that it's, as we know now, it's not really desirable. But yes, if we share a picture of a police officer beating someone, that picture is going to be shared 5,000 times more frequently than another one showing a police officer helping an older lady to cross the street. Because this is how both of them actually evoke emotions, but based on our bias, let's put it this way, we are going to share the information that we feel we are associated with. Okay. Next, if I can go on next. So what can be done or has been done so far? This map on the right, it shows how different governments around the world were trying to implement the various ways to deal with fake information, with misinformation. And some of them are regulation or laws and bills and court ruling or internet shutdown, as you can see in China. There are task force, there are reports. Saudi Arabia actually has threats against those who distribute false information. In the United States, we don't have any regulations. There is something sitting in the Congress it's been sitting for the past several years. But European Commission actually released a report in 2018 in which they defined the disinformation as all forms of false, inaccurate, or misleading information designed, presented, or promoted to intentionally cause public harm or for profit. This is very interesting. This is not just the harm, but also someone is making money on it. Next. So this is also from Europe. The Media Literacy for Citizenship. This is the organization sponsored by the European Union, and they share this poster about different types of misleading information and their impact and also motivation. As you can see, the propaganda has a low impact and it's usually done for passion or for political reason. When conspiracy theories or fake news or pseudoscience, they are more threatening. Their impact is actually more dangerous. So what's going on in this case? Well, there's a lot of fact-checking information. And in 2020, about 100 new fact-checking informations started all over the world. And as you can see on the graph, there is 85 between 2016 and 2020 in Europe. There is almost double of the organizations that fight fake news, fake information. In the United States, it didn't change that much, but Asia went from 23 to 80 different organizations that work to combat the fake information. So where do we go? What can we do? Many of you might be familiar with Snopes. It's the oldest fact-checking online site. It was created in 1995 to fight urban legends and, as they call it, folklore, rumors, myths, and other legends. And it uses icons such as true, mixture, mostly true, and false to present the information, whether it's based on the facts that they were able to check. Snopes became very distracting recently because there is a lot of ads, but you can submit your own question if you want, and people do this. And one of the questions that was submitted recently was whether Tom Cruise was sitting atop of the skyscraper and whether he was wearing a harness or not. And as you can see, this is the image on the right. So the photograph is true. The information is mostly true. So he was actually sitting on the top of the skyscraper, but he almost said that it was wearing a harness. And again, if you want, you can go on the website and submit your own question, and they will confirm or rebuild it. Another place that I'm showing often to students is called All Sides. According to All Sides, everyone is biased, but knowing the political bias of media outlets allows us to consume a balanced news. All Sides created the graph or chart with many media channels and how they lean, whether they are center, right, leaning left, etc. So if you want, you can simply go, and if you are reading Bloomberg News, for instance, you will know that it's leaning a little bit to the left. And we know this, but not every, we are finding information from channels that we don't know. So it's good to know that there are websites where we can actually check where a specific media, what is the specific media's bias. As they said, everyone has bias. This is how all sites present the information from the right, from the left, and from the center. And I like to, at the bottom, perspectives. Kamala Harris criticized for handling of immigration. And the title on the center would be Harris Ocasio-Cortez and the Democratic Divide on Immigration. From the right is Kamala Harris' very bad trip south. And from the left would be do not come, Kamala Harris, 3 words to Guatemalans. So you can see now, particularly when I work with the students, I would show them, this is the information, but this is how it manipulates your emotions. Another organization, another website that I often go to is called Media Biased Fact Check, and this is a private enterprise. But what is good about this site is that they have over 3,800, or probably more now, sources that they evaluate. And they use this graph from right, the most red, to the left, the most blue. And if I don't know a name of the newspaper or some kind of website that promotes news information, I would go there and check what is this newspaper about, what kind of information that they present. And I look for Atlanta Journal-Constitution because I didn't know much about it. And it tells me that it's a little bit left-center bias, which means that they often publish factual information, but they utilize loaded words and that they are leaning a little bit to the left. So when you go to this website, you can type, and I also typed the Bergen record, and it came also as leaning a little bit to the left. If you don't want to go on pages that have a lot of ads, I would recommend FactCheckorg, which is another Public Policy Center sponsored website. They claim to be nonpartisan, nonprofit, and consumer advocate. And they monitor the factual accuracy of what's said by major US political players. This is one of several organizations that works with Facebook to counter misinformation. and also provides a lot of educational information. For instance, you can find a video there or story how to spot a false information. They also have a list, alphabetical list of websites that carry false or satirical information. And the first one on that list is America's Freedom Fighters. So how do they define that this is a website that we should be aware of? They said, for instance, that it doesn't have a disclaimer or doesn't have any about us. And they also did a thorough search on this website, and it says that it's registered, but it hides the identity and location of the owner of the website. It's run by father and son in California, and they use pseudonyms, and they also run the website rightwingtribune.com. So there is a lot of good information on FactCheck.org. And again, this is more for getting to the bottom rather than finding something quick. What I also do from time to time, I would go to Newsroom website. The Newsroom, the one that we know in Washington, D.C., displayed front pages of many newspapers from around the world. So you can compare, for instance, let's say now it's the G7 summit or the meeting of the President Biden with Putin today, and you can see how different media around the world are reporting on it. First Draft is another very useful site because they research how something was developed into an information. And if you want to read some cool information about COVID in depth, I would recommend the First Drive. There are also other organizations, and I call them watchdogs, such as FactChecking from Pointer or OpenSecret.org. Pointer is the international fact-checking network. OpenSecret was founded by the Center for Responsive Politics. Both of them, as I said, they are kind of a watchdog organization. It's not a quick checking information, but getting to the bottom of it. So now my question is, how are you as a reader or thinker? How do you consume the news? And do you search for deeper information? Do you want to get simply to the bottom? And I use an acronym that I call CRAP. And CRAP stands for Currency, Reliability, Authority, and Purpose or Point of View. And that helps me to find out, whether this information is really current. Is it, who is the author, who created it, and what was this person bias? Where did the information come from? How was it shared, and why was it shared? We often look at the URL. Of course, we look for the About Us section and all those loaded words. The graph on the right side, this was created by the International Federation of Library Associations, and it's popular all over the world in libraries. And when they encourage us to look for the source, check the credibility of the author, check when it was created, and also check if this is not a joke. The educational organization that is located in the United States, and it's very helpful for schools, particularly elementary schools. It's called News Literacy Project, and it's free for anyone who wants to use it. The registration required, but it's free. They just need to register your email. And one of the program they sponsor is called Checkology. And Checkology is, again, for schools, encouraging students to put the information and find out whether it's real or it's a make-up story. So at this point, I have a quiz that I would like us to play with, but maybe I can pause for a moment if there are any questions.
Sure. So if you want to put your question in the chat box, or you can unmute, certainly okay with that if you like. There was one question from the chat, but I think you had answered it, they said so.
Okay. All right, so I go to the quiz in a moment because Zoom does not allow us to, move between software. But as a librarian, we often have a question and, how to diffuse the situation when someone comes and said, I don't trust mainstream media anymore. This is fake news. So we have to be very aware how to approach the situation. And then one of the answer would be, if you don't feel comfortable with the word. So this is good when you think that you are facing someone who has a completely different opinion that you do for a specific information that was shared, and how to speak with that person in a civil way, simply, and deliver your information, your message without offending someone. And as I said, in library, we have to deal with this on a daily basis. So at this point, I will close this and stop sharing, and maybe we can go back and play for a moment.
Sure.
Okay. So,
put us to the test.
Yes, you can see my screen. Yes, I'm using News Literacy Project quiz. Should you share it? We can all make healthier choices about information we consume, and test your news literacy fitness with this quiz and exercise your right to be well informed. We don't need to read this. But they are asking us whether we want the version with the misinformation target to liberals or target to conservatives. Any preference? We can pick one. We can do this. So let me just pick the one for conservatives. So now, there was a post on Facebook by an ordinary user, and it says, congrats to, this is Alexandra Ocasio. Oh my gosh, I'm freezing, I'm sorry. Congrats to President Joe Biden. Now let's begin the purge. To round up all conservative traitors, Democrats. Let's make Auschwitz, oh my gosh, look like a picnic. So this was posted as Ocasio-Cortez, from the Ocasio-Cortez Facebook, theoretical Facebook page. And that's how it looked like. And I can see if I can do this way. So the question would be, this present credible fact-based information or this present false information? We can probably say easily that this is wrong information, and we are getting an answer. Yes, this is a screenshot of a fake tweet. Not only does this not match what an authentic tweet from New York Democratic representative would look like, but it also not appear on Twitter feed, or in the Hollywood's archives. So it's easy for people with bad intention to create image and fake tweets, etc. So that's how we use this for students, to let them know how easy it is to manipulate social media. This is another question. I guess we can, this is a video. I don't know if it's going to play. You can also go download it. Let's see. Videos are very easy to I'm taking this beyond what we're supposed to do. See you. Okay. Yes, if he was a Republican, the 25th Amendment talk would be trending, and rightfully so. So is it a credible on false information? I'm going to click on false. And yes, this video clip has been edited in extremely misleading ways to make it seem like Biden is alone on stage. This is why the video is zoomed up and the audio is removed after the first few seconds. You can see this moment in context here, so we can click on the full video, not that it's not edited. And maybe just one more question. This was posted to Twitter by Gallup's official account. Let's see what it says. 65% of Americans said they are willing to be vaccinated for COVID-19. Little changed from 63 who said the same in November. So this is a Twitter on Gallup, and I'm going to think that it's a false information, and I'm wrong. This Facebook post is credible and safe to share. It was shared by Gallup, a widely respected analytics company known for its public opinion polls. The post cites findings, etc. So public opinion polls are imperfect and sometimes used by special interest groups in misleading ways. So bottom line is, if you want, you can continue with this, but we use the news literacy projects for students often to teach them the news literacy. And that would be it from me today, unless you do have any questions. I didn't want to take your whole lunch break. So.
Oh, I have just kind of like a kind of question comment. So for me, I always try to make sure to watch both news outlets, the far left and the far right, because I want to see how they're talking about the same issues. And for me, I think that it helps me see both sides. But I find that most people, they just want to watch what they want to watch that will confirm whatever they want it to confirm. And so I have a hard time. So I guess I would like to know from you what kind of advice you would give me to, if I'm talking to somebody who's just very clearly doesn't want to hear maybe one side or the other, you know, how do you respond to that? How would I respond to that person?
Well, as a librarian, I would always ask, what's your source? Where did you find this information? And, you know, you can use this, even those all sides, you can show that person, you know, look, this is how it's being presented from one side, and this is how the other side it presents. And we are somewhere in the middle in this. It might not be easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but, you know, just calm down and try to.
I always find myself playing devil's advocate. Like, the other side says this, well, but the other side says that. And then then they get confused because they don't know where I am, you know, like where I fall. And I'm like, maybe you don't need to, like, maybe that's not relevant, you know?
Well, I think what's important is to realize that we all have our own biases. Okay, that we just, and that because we have the bias, we are also being fed with the same information that we want to hear. And
right.
That's how it is. I know that when, you know, on January 6th, my husband purposely was listening to Fox News. He did not allow me to turn back to CNN because I said, no, let's listen what they are showing us, they are telling us. Okay, because it's good to know what's the other side is saying, really. Because you can't, you know, get to the bottom of something if you only know your side.
Right.
True. Very true.
Okay. So yeah, I think
because in a lawyer, in a courtroom, you cannot help Maria in her case if I don't see both sides of the island and go beyond the apparent.
And also we have to curb our emotions sometimes, you know, even though I know, oh my gosh, this person is just crazy. Okay, but I cannot do this. I had a very, I do a lot of debates with students. When we were on campus, I did a lot of debates with students. They had to present both sides. And, you know, sometimes the side that I disagree with their position would win because they had better arguments. So it's very important to know the information that you want to share. You know, if you are behind something, get all the facts simpler. And yes, use the sources that you can say, yeah, this was a credible source, you know.
Right. Those sites were great. I shared them in the chat, and we'll send them out when we do like a thank you email to everyone, because I think those sites are really helpful. I had never heard of all of them. And so, you know, it does give you some helpful information when you're maybe having a discussion with somebody on the other side to say, well, let's look it up and we'll see exactly who's right. So
I was supervising a group of honors students, and one of the students was writing about Waco. Remember, there are students who are under 20, so they didn't know anything about Waco, Texas. And he was sending me sources that were like, oh my gosh, this is just so one-sided, you know? So we really had to go and find different, I showed him different places to find something that, you know, that you have to present two sides. I'm not saying who was right, but you have to present two sides and back it up with information, with sources.
right. Well, thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to say a few words. Okay.
I got all the links that you shared.
This was very informative and much appreciated. And actually, I enjoyed it a lot. I think about these kinds of things a lot. So I think your links are going to be really helpful to me and hopefully other people too.
All right. Okay. Thank you. And have a good day, everyone. Okay.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a lovely day.
Bye, Desi.